In March 2022, Nvidia showed this exact same pattern and then dropped 60%. Today, I'm seeing the same warning signs appearing again. Heavy selling volume on red wicks, a stock struggling to move higher, and a critical relative strength indicator signal that most traders are missing. For over half a decade, I've been studying chart patterns and market behavior. And this specific setup has caught my attention. And why am I worried? Because Nvidia basically drives a lot of the stock market. In this video, I'll show you exactly what I'm seeing in Nvidia's chart, why the relative strength indicator is flashing a key warning signal around a certain key level, and what the volume is telling us about institutional behavior. But before we dive in, make sure to grab your free copy of my Investors Pattern Playbook, and it's the same guide that helped members of the newsletter make 240% return on SMCI and 200% return on Nvidia. Click the link in the description and you'll get it instantly. So here we have the chart of Nvidia, and I just want to show you why Nvidia is such a great company. Look at the earnings table. This is something very important. If a company has revenue growth of over 25% over the last 4 quarters, it is a super growth stock. This is saying that is too little for me. It has crazy growth. Earnings per share growth is looking beautiful. We like to see something above 40% for really great stocks, but here it's blowing that out of the water. The only bad thing that we are seeing that I would have liked to see are the earnings accelerating. So if this year we have 100%, we like to see 200%, then 300% over the next quarters. But what is actually happening is that the earnings are still growing, but they are decelerating. So we see 760%, 660%, 170%, then 110. And normally what happens is that by the time earnings start decelerating, that is also a bearish sign. The return on equity, we like to see above 17%. Here we see 90%. So this stock is a very strong stock. So you can see what those fundamentals caused. We see a very nice cup and handle here, tight price action on low volume, breakout on a huge volume. You can see on the weekly chart. We of course use a weekly chart because we like to see the bigger trends. The bigger trends are what help you make the big money as an investor. So we see this breakout here, and after we can see a 200% move was the maximum profit that you could have gotten. The stock is starting to sit down, and it is showing certain signals that are quite scary. Let me first go through the first simple warning signs, and I'll show you the most scary warning sign later in the video. So the first sign that we do not like to see is price struggling to move up. So one thing that you should just know as an investor, or if someone does not know charts very well, is that if price is struggling to move in a certain direction, it's most likely to reverse, because when you see on impulse waves, what normally happens, the price action is very smooth. But if you see it jogging like this, that is already a bad sign. So we saw decelerating earnings, price struggling to move up. And look, on this breakout here and price going up, we see the volume is increasing. But what are we seeing here? The volume is going down while the stock is going up very slightly and is struggling to go up. What does that mean? That there are very few participants in the market. And that is another bad sign. The third bad sign that I also don't like to see, or maybe the fourth, is that if we look at the red wicks, the biggest volume is in the red wicks. The green wicks, apart from this one, most of them have very low volume. We don't like to see that. And then what we are seeing here is something called a double top pattern. So it comes and tries to break above this 150 price level, and Nvidia fails on very huge volume on a daily chart. The daily chart is where we like to go and do a microscope and see exactly when to get in and out. So here we can see a double top, which is also not a good pattern. And right after the double top, we see very huge volume. But every time it goes up, the volume is not looking good. But those signs are not as scary as the final sign. And the final sign, let's first go back in history to see where it happened before. So if we go back to March 2010, okay, 2010, okay, and I'll pull up the relative strength indicator. So one thing you should know about the relative strength indicator is that a lot of people misread it. They think that this is oversold. They think that this is overbought. Now, that's not exactly how it was intended to be used. It can be used in other ways not to see the trends. And one of the major signals of the relative strength indicator is that the 60 level, which I mark here, is a very strong bearish and bullish level. So if a stock is bouncing off the 60 level, that's a very bullish sign. So the stock is very strong. If a stock, as we can see kind of here, right? If a stock is failing on the 60 level, so it kind of runs into it and then fails, that is a very bearish sign. So what do we see here? We see the same thing. Stock struggling to move up, fails under the 60, crashes. And here we see a 60% crash. Where did we see this again? The next time this happened was in March of 2022. So let's go there and see. 12 years later. Okay, so we see the RSI moving averages, they cross, the faster moving average is below the slower one. So it's red. That's already a bad sign. Nvidia tries to recover and fails right on the 60 line. And then what happens from there? We see a 60% drop. And what is happening today? We see the same sign. Red on the relative strength indicator. We see a double top here, which is already another bad sign that we don't like to see. It's also failing at the 60 level. And this is a very strong bearish sign. And it's also trying to do it on volume. It's not the strongest volume, but it is quite some amount of volume. So we see the first time it failed on that level, there was some strong volume. And then the second time it's coming up on some also at least strong volume. But this time it's doing it around the 60 level on the relative strength indicator. And this is a very bearish signal. And if this happens, this stock, since it's very big, it's over $1 trillion, 3 trillion, should I say, it's going to bring the stock market down with it because a lot of the valuation of the stock market is in Nvidia. But also that being said, it doesn't really mean that the stock is going to crash because also there's some few bullish signs that I might be seeing. The first bullish sign is that we are seeing higher lows, right? Despite all of those negative signs, we're seeing higher lows. Higher lows are a good sign, right? Another bullish sign is that this supporting volume here on the weekly chart, it has stronger volume. So that means a lot of people came and supported the stock around $135. So it seems that there is quite a support on this level here. What I think might happen is that we have to watch the stock. If the stock comes and crashes under and closes below 122 for over maybe 3 days, that is likely to be a very bearish signal from there. So if you have the stock, don't sell it yet because it has not actually broken. I'm just showing you very bearish signals, but we have to wait for the price to actually break because the reason investors and speculators will lose a lot of money that they spend more time imagining what is going to happen in the future, and then they act on an imagination that has not actually happened. But in the stock market, we don't know exactly what is going to happen. We can just see the signs. So we have to first wait for it to actually break, and then we can know. And even if it breaks, what one can do is to short it. Something that could happen is that it could come back here and form a support and it can break out. Again, that is a possibility. But if it breaks its support and if the 10-week simple moving average crosses below the 30-week simple moving average, we know, as we've seen in the past, it could form a very bearish signal. So let's wait and see what happens in Nvidia stock. If you find value in this video, please subscribe to the channel. May the markets be with you.